Guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for tuning in. If you love cooking, I suggest you subscribe to this channel as I am continuing to make some cooking videos. Today we are making a really special recipe. It's something that I really didn't even know about until a friend of mine ordered it. We went out for Thai food and she was so excited to see something on the menu, and she said it's Thai basil chicken. So now a lot of Thai restaurants will make a Thai basil chicken with chunks of chicken. And this recipe does originally call for using chicken thighs, but I will be using ground chicken, and that's exactly how she ordered it, and it was so delicious. And I feel like with the ground chicken, it really absorbs the flavor of the sauce a little bit more than just chunks of chicken with sauce thrown on it. So that's why I love this recipe. It's also very savory, sweet, and spicy. So it has all of those elements, which I feel like a lot of Thai cooking has in it too. So of course, it was kind of difficult to find it at other Thai restaurants. I did recently find it near a restaurant near my house, and I ordered it. I loved it. But then I was like, let me see if it's pretty easy to make. And again, it's ground chicken and rice. So it's fairly easy to make. It doesn't require too many ingredients, though I will say there are a couple that are tough to find because they're very Thai specific. So I will talk about that in a second. Today I'm going to do a lot of top-down cooking, so you will see a lot of things being thrown into my wok. I will be using a wok today. The joy of using a wok is that you really could add a bunch of stuff into one pan, and I feel like usually when I cook in a wok, I'm just using that one pan. I did already cook some white rice. It's sitting there on the stove. It's already done. One thing I will say about white rice, and I will show you here in a second what that process kind of looks like, but always make sure whatever rice you are using that you rinse the rice first. Two benefits of that is you're cleaning the rice before you eat it, which is always a good thing. And number two, you're rinsing out a lot of starch and pulling a lot of starch out of that rice so it's not so sticky. So the more you rinse it, the less sticky it kind of gets. I also boil it with a couple tablespoons of oil, which I will explain here. And so I actually earlier just did a couple clips of a video to show you the rinsing process of the rice. Here it is. All right, guys, so this is what it looks like after one rinse of water with the rice. So I'm just rinsing it right in the pot because I'm going to end up boiling it in the pot. You could do it in a separate container if you like. I just poured a little water. I didn't measure anything, just above the rice. And then what I do is I use my clean hand just to kind of stir it. And you can see that not only are you cleaning the rice, but you're cleaning out all the starch from the rice, which will make it less sticky as you cook it. So I'm going to do this about 3 or 4 times. I might even do it 5 or 6 times, depending on the color of the water. Okay, but I usually don't do it more than about 5 or 6 times. You'll see the water will get clearer and clearer. I'll show you what it looks like at the end. All right, so this is after my 6th rinse, and you can see that the water is much clearer. So I think this will be my last rinse. Again, I just swirl my hand around in it. You will see that more and more of the starch will cloudy up the water, and then I'll just rinse it out. But that's about it. Okay, so I usually always cook my rice first. I'm getting all my other stuff ready to go, and then my rice is just ready for me when I'm ready. And I feel like I can leave it on the stove and kind of forget about it while it cooks. I already did some prep before this video, just to kind of trying to make my videos a little bit shorter. So I'll talk about the ingredients that I already prepped. There's only a few ingredients, and then I will do the sauce with you as well. And then we'll move over to the wok and I'll show you the cooking process. So I chopped some red bell peppers and some onions. Did about half and half, about the same amount of quantity. This is one red pepper. It was probably like a medium pepper, not too large, not too small. And about a little over a half of an onion, probably like 3/4 of an onion. If you have a nice small onion, you could do 1 onion. That's totally fine. I also have some chopped up garlic. You could do minced garlic. I buy it already minced. I'm already chopped actually in the jar, and I just buy a jar of garlic, and that way I don't have to spend the time, you know, prepping the garlic. I just literally scoop it out of the jar, and then I kind of eyeball it. I do like a small scoop, 1 small scoop for each clove. And then I chopped up some basil. Now for this recipe, it does ask that you use Thai basil, which I'm finding is really tough to find. I do have an international grocery store near me, but they ended up not having it. And I Googled where I can find it near me, and it said Whole Foods, so I went to Whole Foods. They didn't have it. So I'm just using regular basil today. I will say it packs less of a punch than real Thai basil. Thai basil just really is a little bit more flavorful. And you'll get, when you get that bite of basil, it's like, it's in the forefront. This basil, which I will throw last into my pan just so it has a little more flavor, is a little more muted, if you will. But you can still use it. It's totally fine. The other thing that you need to find, or if you can't find, you can substitute it, is Thai chilies. This is what a Thai chili looks like. It's very small, and I just chopped it, really minced it really small. I know it's kind of hard for you to see from so far away, but so what I did is I just cut off the end, cut it in half, took the seeds out, and then I minced it. When you're using this type of chili, you really, really, really need to wash your hands thoroughly afterwards. It will linger on your hands. Don't rub your eyes, that kind of thing. And I would even say maybe even 24 hours after that, like keep washing your hands and making sure they're not too spicy. It will sting in your eyes and your nose and your, wherever else. If you cannot find Thai chilies, it is okay to substitute them with some like a jalapeno or another type of chili. Just make sure it's not so spicy, because once these cook, they actually are not that spicy in my opinion. Last time, I think I had tried this one other time. Last time I tried it, I only used 3 chilies, or 2, maybe even 2, and the recipe says 4. So I am going to use 4 today. They are pretty small, so once you mince them up, you really just get a small amount. Again, you can use jalapenos. You can use slices of jalapenos. You can mince them. Again, I would remove the seeds. I'm going to chop up this last chili. Then what I'm going to do is make the sauce, so you can see the sauce process, and then I'm going to move over to my wok and I'm going to show you how I'm going to throw things in. All right, we're going to make our sauce, and then we're going to set it aside. The first ingredient you need is 3 tablespoons of sugar, and this will offset the saltiness of, we're going to throw in soy sauce, oyster sauce, and fish sauce. One thing I'm going to tell you before we start, and I will remind you as we go, I do not salt my meat as I do this because there's enough salt in the fish sauce and the oyster sauce and the soy sauce, even though I do use low sodium soy sauce. All right, so 3 tablespoons of sugar. Next, I believe everything else is 2 tablespoons, but let's see. Nope, we're gonna do 3 tablespoons. Okay, so the first thing I have is oyster sauce. I am going to do 3 tablespoons of oyster sauce. If you have any grocery store, just go into the international, anywhere you would find like Asian ingredients, and they should have oyster sauce. It is a pretty thick sauce, so I'm actually going to just grab a little spoon to help me out here. Hold on 1 second. Okay. I forgot how thick this is. And as you can see, it is pretty thick. So I'm going to just use a little spoon to spoon it out. And again, we want 3 tablespoons of oyster sauce. You should be able to find this in any Asian aisle of your grocery store. If you have an international grocery store, that's where I found it. We actually have a Thai section, so even though we do have like different Asian cultural foods. Like one aisle will be Indian, one aisle will be Thai, I have another one Chinese, Japanese. We even have like a Jamaican aisle. It is so awesome because whatever type of food you really want to make, you can go in there and find some pretty awesome items that you might not find in your regular grocery store. I would even say here in Chicago, that's where I live, we have even like wholesalers who would sell just Asian specific items. You can do that as well. Okay, so then the next, I believe it's 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of fish sauce. I do use a reduced sodium soy sauce just because I like to control the amount of salt. And I found that I really do not need to add more salt into this recipe, especially with fish sauce. I feel like it gives you that salty element. Oh no, don't fall. All right, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. Again, I do use the reduced sodium. You can use regular. I just think it will be just a little bit more salty, so just be aware of that. Next, I will be using some fish sauce. Again, you can find this in your, if you have in your grocery store, international aisle, Asian food specifics. If you have an international grocery store, I suggest you go into where you would find the Thai items, but I feel like fish sauce is used, and so is soy sauce, probably oyster sauce as well, in many different cultural recipes, or Asian cultural, I should say, recipes. So even if you don't have those specific sort of aisles in your grocery store, you should still be able to find those items. And I'm just going to whisk it together. So you really just want the sugar to dissolve. You want it to be a nice sort of smooth sauce. I will come back and whisk this again before I throw it into the chicken, just because things settle. So, all right, so your sauce should be ready. It's a nice brown sauce. It's a little bit salty. It's a little bit sweet. You can even smell it. You know, it smells so delicious. It's awesome. All right, guys, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get our wok heated up. What you're going to do is add a couple tablespoons of, I use canola oil because it gets to a very high heat, or any other type of oil that can get you to a high heat. I leave that on for maybe about a minute or so and let it get really hot. I also swirl it around so the oil kind of coats the side of the pan a little bit too, because as you add things, inevitably will go up into the side of the pan, especially as you're stirring. What we're going to do first is we're going to throw in the bell peppers, the red bell peppers. If you don't have red bell peppers, you can use green, you can use any other type of bell pepper. It doesn't have to be specific. I like to use the red because they're a little bit more sweet, and also they give that red type of coloring to it too, because we're gonna use green beans, we're gonna use basil, we have some other green elements in here, so the red kind of gives it a pop of color. And then I'm going to throw in my onions, and I'm gonna cook that. I'm actually gonna pull those out and then add my meat. The recipe does say to just throw the meat in there with the red bell peppers, the green beans, and I'm just gonna do things a little bit differently, but again, I will post that original recipe below. So I'm gonna throw in the red bell peppers, and then I already blanched frozen green beans. So in order to blanch something, you just throw it into water and then you bring it up to a boil. The reason I use frozen green beans, and you can use fresh, but I think that they're almost somewhat cooked a little bit, but they also still have that crunch, but they're not raw to where you need to cook them a little bit more or steam them or do all this other stuff with them. I think too, I never use all the green beans that I get at the store at the same time, so I really like to keep them frozen and they stay fresher longer, if that makes sense. So all I did was took a small pan of water, put my beans in there, made sure the water kind of covered the beans, and then I just brought it up to a boil. I let it boil for maybe a minute or two, stir it around, and then I strained it. And then my beans are pretty much ready to go. They still are crunchy, but again, they kind of have a little of that crunch taken like they're kind of par cooked a little bit already. So I prefer it that way. You can use regular green beans as the recipe calls for. All right, I'm going to get my wok heated up. I'm going to throw these bell peppers in there. The rest of the shots until the very end will be top down on top of my wok, throwing things in so you can see what to throw in and how it should look. And then at the end, I'll come back and talk to you a little bit. All right, so here we go. All right, guys, I already have my wok heated up. I have some oil in there. I have my red bell peppers. I'm only going to cook them for about a minute or so, maybe more accurately like 2 or 3 minutes. I want to just get the crunch off of the red bell peppers. I don't want to cook them all the way because I'm going to add my onions in next and then my green beans. So I don't want them to burn. So about 2 or 3 minutes, and then add the onions, stir it around, give it another couple minutes, and then add the green beans. My onions into the wok. I'm going to cook them for about another minute or two. I did get a little carried away making a little reel on Instagram, so my peppers did cook a little bit, but that's okay. Then I'm going to add the green beans. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I have added my green beans to the wok. Just give it a stir. Remember, these are already somewhat cooked because I just used frozen and I blanched them in some water, brought it to a boil, and then I strained them. My peppers and onions are pretty much cooked as well. I'm just heating everything up basically, or at least heating up the green beans. And then I will pull all this stuff out and put it into a bowl actually, and then add my ground chicken. So I can kind of cook it separately and then add the veggies back in. That way, just so there's room to cook the chicken. I really don't think, I mean, the recipe says to just throw the chicken on top of here. I really like to cook it so it can evenly cook and I don't have raw meat all over my cooked veggies. All right, I added in my ground chicken. I'm going to break it apart as it cooks with my spoon, get it nice and kind of small pieces. And I'm going to flip it around till it cooks. The only thing I'm going to add to this is pepper. You can add some oregano if you like as well. Again, don't forget we do have our sauce and our basil, so we don't need to add salt, and we don't really need to heavily season this. Okay. All right, my chicken is pretty much done. It is browning still. I'm going to next add the garlic and the Thai chili. Add my garlic. I'm going to stir that around. I'm also going to add the Thai chilies. I added the Thai chilies. I'm going to stir this around. All right. I just wanted to add that I'm going to cook this for about another minute just so my garlic and my Thai chilies cook down a little bit. I want to kind of take that spice off of the chilies and also that more of the rawness off of the garlic. But about a minute or two is good. Then add the veggies, the bell peppers, the onions, and the green beans back into the wok. Now that I have my veggies in the pan, I'm going to mix it up all together. One thing I forgot to add was the amount of green beans. The recipe calls for 8 ounces. I honestly just eyeballed them and fit them into my pan. But that's about how much I put in there. I don't mind having more green beans than the meat, but I feel like it's a pretty good even portion. Veggies to the ground meat are pretty even amount. I'm going to mix this together, let it cook down maybe another minute, and then I'm going to add my sauce and let that marinate for about a minute or two, and then I'm going to add the All right, I mixed everything up. I added the sauce that we made with the soy sauce, fish sauce, oyster sauce, and sugar. I did whisk it for a few seconds before I put it into the pan, into the wok. I also did let's see if you can see my finger. I did a swirling kind of motion when I dumped the sauce in and kind of went around, letting it kind of drizzle over everything. I didn't just dump it in the middle of the pan. I'm going to let this marinate in the pan for another minute or so, and then I'm going to add the basil. It is starting to smell so good in here. I added my basil into the pan. I'm going to give it a quick stir, and I'm going to just let it cook for about 1 more minute. I don't want to cook that basil down too much because, again, it's not Thai basil, and we want it to be a little pungent as we taste it. But there we go. We're almost to the finished product. I'm loving it. Oh, I'm adding, there we go. Maybe it's doing too much. All right, here we go. All right, I served myself a little portion of the ground Thai basil chicken, and I'm gonna give it a taste. All right, so I've served myself a little bit of white rice. I will say my favorite rice is probably basmati rice. I feel like it's the most forgiving of the rices. Brown rice is pretty forgiving too. It doesn't get super sticky. Today I just used white rice. I served myself some of the ground Thai basil chicken, and I'm going to take a bite. But before I do, I just want to tell you that it smells so awesome in here. I definitely get that sweet smell from the oyster sauce and the sugar. I get that pungent smell from the basil. I'm really excited to try this. All right, here we go. I'm gonna try to get everything in a bite. Tell you how it tastes. Come on, Basil. I think this time around for sure, having cooked the basil for a really quick, not even a minute, maybe a minute at the most, I can really taste the basil a little bit more, which is awesome and exciting. That's at the forefront, which it should be. The chicken, it's not overly sweet. It's not overly salty. It just has a really great flavor. I think it's really the fish sauce and the soy sauce coming through. But again, it has a little bit of that sweetness to it, but again, not overly sweet. It is so delicious. The veggies are cooked really well. Like I said, the green beans, I just blanched them. They were frozen and they're awesome. Still has a little crunch to the green beans, which is really great. You don't want them to be too soggy. And oh my gosh, it's so delicious. I am totally gonna finish this plate. So try it out. Please comment below if you try it or have tried this before. If you have any other adaptations or things that you like to do to this recipe, honestly, I will make this over and over again. I love finding recipes for ground chicken. I also have a great curry chicken meatballs that all I do is use the ground chicken to make the meatballs. And it's really easy. So I'll probably also do that recipe at some point. But just finding other ways to use ground chicken. Not only is it pretty healthy, it's adapts to any flavor that you really put with it. So I really have been looking for more and more recipes to use ground chicken. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. I'd love to try some new recipes as well. I will link the original recipe below. You will see that I have tweaked the process a little bit, but not necessarily the ingredients and things like that. Again, if you can't find Thai chilies, you can replace them with another type of chili or a jalapeno. You can also, if you can't find Thai basil, just use regular basil, but again, just throw it in at the end for maybe 30 seconds, just so it cooks and it wilts a little bit, but it also retains that flavor. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm Dana, and I will see you next time. Please, if you love cooking videos or you like this video, you want to see more, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Bye. Have a great day.